The Planet versus the State. Written by Zoë Little. Read by Stephen Leger. Government exists to protect the wealth and power of the ruling class, so it's no surprise that the state has a pretty poor track record when it comes to environmental protection. There is a long, sad, and bloody history of land theft by the state or agents of it. America was built on stolen land with the labor of stolen people. Though it may act more subtly today, the state is still in the business of subverting individual rights for ulterior political benefits at the expense of the environment. Things like public land, intellectual property, withholding water and mineral rights from landowners, and eminent domain are all thinly veiled attempts to steal power and autonomy from the people and grant them to the privileged elite. Strangely enough, people who live off the land, who rely on it for survival, tend to be good stewards of their resources. The same cannot be said for land stolen by the government and leased or sold at absurdly low prices for private benefit. As a self-proclaimed environmentalist, I sincerely wish that it were somehow possible to entrust the protection of the environment to some perfect and benevolent central power that could magically fix all our problems by passing a bunch of laws or something. Unfortunately, the existence and efficacy of such a body is equally unfathomable to Congress voting to reduce their own salaries. Now, I'm not claiming that our environmental woes would disappear in a free society, but at least we could begin to undo the damage already done by the state. You might be thinking, it's not the government ruining our natural resources, it's the evil corporations. While TransCanada, Tyson and Monsanto may be the boots on the ground of environmental degradation, one must consider how these players came to be so damn evil. Imagine you are the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar oil company and you want to ship your product across thousands of terrestrial miles. What would possibly be better than having a massive tube constantly flowing full of black gold from its origin in the ground to every major refinery between there and Timbuktu? Try not to become too aroused. Before you can utter a sigh of euphoric pleasure over your new business plan, you remember, oh dear God, that pipeline is going to have to cross the privately owned property of thousands of people. It will be practically impossible to create a path to its destination that turns a profit and doesn't look like a gerrymandered county border. After all, most people don't really want an environmental disaster waiting to happen in their backyard. But wait, how foolish you've been. Your eyes glow like a child on Christmas morning, for you've just remembered that you don't have to worry about any of that. Why? The government. You look wistfully at your framed copy of the Supreme Court ruling Kello v. City of New London, your favorite court case, which allows the state to invoke eminent domain for the purposes of economic development. Dusting off the frame that sits on your desk next to the picture of an oil-soaked pelican, you begin to dial the phone numbers of your favorite congressman. Your dream is almost a reality. You can rest easy. Suddenly, a horrifying image creeps into your mind. Some disgusting, hairy, tie-dye wearing vagrant has chained herself to construction equipment that you plan to use to build the fantasy pipeline in your mind. You gasp in terror, not just at the idea of a person defying you, but that someone poor is touching your stuff. But then, riding in on white clouds, or perhaps in Crown Victorias, come your guardian angels, the police. After all, the hairy vagrant is the one breaking the law, not you. Whether you like it or not, the system is rigged in favor of the evil corporation. Against you, small businesses, the poor, indigenous peoples, and the environment. For every well-meaning regulation of carbon emissions or toxic waste, there are 10 policies that grant polluters freedom from the consequences of their actions, eliminate their competitors in the free market, and disincentivize or outright criminalize efficiency. For every dollar the government spends on alternative energy and recycling, $1 million go to lining the pockets of oil barons, building landfills, and terrorizing farmers who refuse to stop saving seeds or selling raw milk. As long as an infrastructure exists by which the elite, whether they be capitalist, trustafarians, or tyrants, can gain political power and impose their will on the masses for their own benefit, all state efforts to protect the environment will be empty promises. How can they tell us to take shorter showers when they allow big agribusiness and natural gas companies to squander and pollute trillions of gallons of water every year at pennies on the dollar of its true cost? How can they tell us to drive less when they've created a world in which it's impossible not to? How can they tell the poorest and most vulnerable Americans to foot the bill, not just with their wallets, but with their bodies, for the destruction, pollution, and degradation the state has done nothing but encourage? Earth and its inhabitants have been assaulted by state violence for far too long. The only hope for radical environmentalists is the most radical of political environments: anarchism,